they paid well. Ford by then was unionized, but they'd not been unionized that long. So I went to work there in '49, and I think they weren't unionized till maybe sometime during World War II. Ford tried to keep from being unionized, and one of the features he had, he was very employee conscious, and he had another division that made farm equipment, tractors and all the stuff that goes with tractors, and he owned acres and acres and acres of land around Dearborn, and this was prime land right down where there was businesses and that, but he'd have large tracts of it. Many of the people that worked at the Ford Rouge plant lived in Detroit and in East Dearborn, which is where the plant was, and they didn't have any yards or anything. They lived in apartments or little row houses, things like that. And so if they wanted to have a garden, all they had to do was go to the personnel office, and depending on the size of their family, they would get a garden plot assigned to them, and it would be all staked out, ready to plant. And a lot of people did that, but then old Henry Ford would have his driver take him out there, and he'd look around, see how it's going, and if he saw a garden or two that had full of weeds, wasn't being taken care of, why, he'd tell his people to get that number, and then the person would be summoned down to the personnel office and says, you're not doing right by your family. So you get those weeds out of there, we're going to check it again, and if they're still there, you're not going to have a job with us. And that's just the way it was. But he was thinking that some of these weren't features that any of the other auto manufacturers had for their employees. So maybe that's what kept them from being unionized back when the other ones were. But anyway, the union finally got in there, and then once the union got in there, the Ford made news for paying $5 a day for 8 hours work, and that was big money when he did that, because the other ones weren't paying that, and I don't think they were working 8 hours a day either. But the people were more productive. You know, the union wasn't telling them to, well, don't work so hard. You know, the more harder you work, the less people will be able to have a job and that sort of thing. And I even noticed that because I was a pretty good worker, and some of the union stewards, they called them, they say, slow down a little bit, slow down, you're going to kill the job. And that's what they would do. They'd try to make people work as slow as they could get away with without getting fired, just so that it wouldn't be as productive and they'd have to have more people.